Hi everyone, my name is Audrey and welcome to my channel. Probably know by now with the title of this video that it's not going to be your typical video that I usually post on my channel. If you're here because you like my bookish content, thank you, I appreciate it, but you're not going to find that in this video, unfortunately. And if you're not interested in my personal life, I totally understand that, and I will not hold it against you if you do not watch this video. It's fine. I'm still posting bookish content. No worries. I'm currently working on my May TBR and my April wrap up for next week. So you can expect that to be on here soon. If you're new here, welcome. Hi. I usually post bookish content videos on BookTube. So that's usually my content. But today I'm going to talk about my journey with infertility and all of our struggles we've been through and that we are still going through today. So if you're interested in bookish content as well as what I'm going to talk about today, you can subscribe and check all of those videos out. If you're not interested in the bookish stuff and you're only here for the infertility video, that's fine as well. So welcome. Also, I just want to add there that I am not going to tolerate any hate comments regarding this video. I'm going to be very strict about that. I want this to be a very safe place, and I am sharing with you some things that are very personal to me. So I won't be tolerating any hate comments. So this week is the Canadian Infertility Awareness Week. If you don't know that, I am a French Canadian. I live in Quebec. And before I actually start this video, I do want to put a disclaimer because, first of all, I am not a doctor. I am not qualified to give you any medical advice. I'm just sharing my own personal experience. And when it comes to infertility, every experience is different and it's a very case-to-case basis. So even if I was qualified, I still can't give you an advice for that, for legal reasons, but also because I'm not a doctor, I'm not qualified. So yeah. So I actually started my BookTube channel because of my infertility struggles. I started it last July because I wanted to help raise funds for our IVF project, which I will get back to a little later in this video. So I knew from the beginning that I was going to talk about it one day eventually on my channel, and it seems that this is the day it's going to happen. So I started dating my husband in 2008, late December 27. We were living in a small rural area, and I learned a couple of months later that I was accepted in my bachelor's degree in Quebec City, which is a 3-hour trip from where we used to live. And I knew that I was leaving, and I told him at the time that he was either going to follow me or stay there. I didn't care, but I was moving out and that I was going to study. And he finally decided to come with me to Quebec City, and we moved in together. We were dating for about 6 months, and which is quite early in a relationship. We were 19 years old. I'm now 33, and we have been together ever since. So we've been together for 15 and a half years, and we got married in August 2014. So we're going to celebrate our 8th-year anniversary. Yeah, we're our 8th anniversary this year, which is kind of wild to me. But yeah, my husband always knew he wanted a big family with a lot of children. I remember he wanted like 6 or 8 kids, and I told him there was no way I was going to deliver 8 kids. So we settled for 4, and we actually started trying when we were 22 years old. I wanted my first kid at 23, so I don't know why, but that was the number that felt right for me. So I stopped the birth control that I was using, which was not the pill, it was the patches. So I stopped that at 22 years old, and we started casually trying. So I did everything anyone who's very eager to have children might do. So I was researching on the subject. I was trying to learn as much as possible about it, and trying everything that everyone wants to try, even things that are not scientifically based and proven stuff. I guess we all kind of go through a phase like that, but that's what I did. And when I'm into something, I really want to learn the most that I can about it. So that's what I did with the conceiving part. Usually, they consider that you have fertility problems when it's been a year of trying to conceive and it was not working. I was never pregnant before actually having my son. So after a year, I talked about it to my husband, and he was just so scared to be told that he would never be able to have children. That was one of his biggest fears. So I decided to respect that, and I waited a little bit more. And after almost 2 years of trying to conceive, I decided to just go to the doctor, because obviously this is not going to work. We can try as long as we want to. We definitely needed help. And if we do nothing, we never will have any children. So I went to my primary doctor, who referred me to a OBGYN. And during those 2 years of trying to conceive by ourselves without medical help, I did do a lot of trying to understand my cycles, trying to pinpoint the right window to get pregnant, all that stuff. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. From what I was seeing on my graphs, you have like, you can take temperature graphs. Usually when you ovulate, temperature drops, and there's like differences in your body temperature and all that stuff. So I was doing those, and according to those, I had a feeling that something was not right in my body. And I was not wrong. Usually your instinct is pretty good with that. So we went to the OBGYN, and I told her all of my fears and everything that was bothering me. We did some basic tests that all patients that go through infertility have to get done. It was blood work and sperm counts tests for my husband. And from the graphics, she told us that, yes, I did seem to have some symptoms with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So normally in your ovaries, you have like follicles, and then during your cycle, some of them will grow, and one will grow bigger and be mature enough to eventually give you an egg. And once that egg is out, you have about 24 to 48 hours before it dies. So you have a very small window of about 5 days to actually be able to conceive. So pinpointing the right date, the right moment is actually really important when you are trying. And if you have PCOS, that means you have way too many follicles, and there's not enough, and they just don't grow, so they don't give you any egg. So there's no way you can conceive when you have that. I had my own suspicions that I had PCOS. She didn't like go through intensive research and tests for that. She just gave me a medication to take from day 2 to 7 from my cycle, which is supposed to help with ovulation. And people who do have PCOS are able to ovulate if they have the right medication. So that's what I got. And then my husband's results were not very good either. So he took some vitamins, which is the only thing that they know that it has been medically proven to help a bit. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. So he took some vitamins for 3 months, and then he had to pass another test. And I went to see her again and tried that medication for 3 months, and it didn't work, didn't get pregnant. And she gave me another medication that usually works better with PCOS patients. And even if at this point I have no diagnosis yet, and my husband's results were better, but not great. So the best option for us was to refer us for insemination. And where we live, there's only one clinic that does that, one hospital that does insemination. So she transferred us to there. And she told us that we didn't need to do anything, that they're going to transfer our files, and that they were going to call us when it was our turn to be seen by a doctor in that clinic. And I knew that there was a long wait list to be seen. So I just waited, and I was patient, very patient. And after a year of waiting, I just decided to pick up the phone and call and ask where we were on the list, because it was a long time. And they just told us that basically they didn't have our file. And yeah, I was so mad, so mad. Like, I mean, when you want children, you want them now. And we have already been trying for 2 years. And it's one thing to be on a wait list, but waiting for another whole year for nothing. So I called my other clinic and told them what happened, and that I was really angry, that I wasted 1 year of my life waiting for that. And then they just sent my file as urgent. The clinic actually called us 2 weeks later to give us an appointment within the next 2 weeks. So like once I got a hold of my file and everything, it did go pretty fast. But the thing is, when you go through infertility, you have a lot of tests to do. You have to redo your test every year. So since it's been over a year that my older tests have been done, we had to redo all of them from scratch. But I also did some more tests for me that I didn't do the first time. So I had blood work done, and then I had a sonogram for my uterus to see how it was, see if there was any problems that we couldn't see. And they did check on my ovaries and see if they could diagnose me with PCOS, which they kind of did, but not really. So I don't officially have PCOS. I have what they call a clinical PCOS, which means that I don't have all 3 of the criteria that are required to have the actual diagnosis, but I still have the same outcome. I only had like 1 criteria met, which was the number of follicles in my ovaries. So I had answers, I guess, which I was kind of happy with, because I knew inside me that something wasn't right. And it was true. I do not ovulate if I don't have medication. So that confirmed it. But the other criteria were just like on the limit to be met. And because of that, they decided that I didn't have the PCOS. But I mean, the outcome is still the same. So there's that. At least we had answers. And for my husband, his results were bad as well. Nothing new. So how inseminations work at the clinic where I was, you were seen at the end of your cycle, and the doctor would prescribe you the medication to make you ovulate. And in a case like mine, he gave me medication for the next cycle so I could ovulate. So from day 2 to day 7 that I had to take. And then I would come back for a sonogram to verify if I had any follicles that were mature enough to be able to have eggs in them. And I do that sonogram around day 13-ish. And the first cycle there was nothing. My ovaries didn't react very well to the medication, but it was a very mild dose. So the next cycle, what we did is they doubled the dose. And then they told me that if that didn't work, we would have to try to make me ovulate with some other medication, because they don't really triple doses at that clinic. So what they do is they just change medication, and it's a medication that you need to inject. So I would have to get injections to make that work. And if we were going through the injection route, that means they needed to be sure that everything was fine. So I had another test during that cycle to actually see if my tubes were blocked. And that test, I don't know the test name in English, but it was the worst test ever. I wouldn't even wish that test upon my worst enemy. Honestly, it was that bad. But I would redo that all over again if I could. Because it was painful. It was awful. They told me I couldn't drive because afterwards, because of the pain. So my mom came and made the trip to help me out with that. And a good thing that she was there, because it was painful. So what they do is that they put a catheter in your uterus, and they shoot like this iodine type of liquid, and they take x-rays of your tubes. So and if they see the liquid pass through your tubes, it means nothing's blocked. But if it doesn't pass, it means it's blocked. And even if you get your injections and get your eggs, you still can't do anything about it, because there's no way that's going to be fertilized if the way's blocked. So that's the reason why. And they told me that the next few months after that test, you're usually more fertile. I don't actually understand why, but it's been proven that you're more fertile after that. So who knows? And during that same cycle, I got my sonogram. I was so confident that it wasn't going to work at all. And surprise, surprise, I had 3 mature follicles, which was really surprising for me. So we went on, and the next day we went back and had the insemination. So insemination is quite different than IVF. So they don't take out the eggs from your body at all. They just take the sperm and take the best ones and put it directly in your uterus, if that makes sense. They just give them a little bit of a push. And so that's what we did. And surprisingly, it worked. I got pregnant with my son in August 2015, and I gave birth to him in May 2016. So he's going to be 6 in 2 weeks. Sorry, I had to change angles. I ran out of battery and I had to plug my camera in. So yeah, I had a very tough delivery with my son, and it took me a very long time to physically heal from that. It was an induced labor, and after 22 hours, it ended up in a C-section. And I had just so many medication and stuff in my system. It took me such a long time to recover that, I was not ready for another one. And I know that they told me I had to wait a year after my C-section to get pregnant again because of the safety risks. If you get pregnant too quickly before your C-section actually really heals in the inside part, that may be dangerous in the next pregnancy. It can rip and it can be very dangerous. So I knew I had to wait, but at the same time, I know that I cannot ovulate without any medical help. So, I mean, I did take the birth control pill that was prescribed and safe to take while I was breastfeeding, but just because they were really insisting on that, and I didn't want to have like a really risky pregnancy because of the C-section. So I took it for less than 6 months and then I just stopped it because I'm really bad at taking pills. It was the reason why I stopped it like over 10 years ago. So, yeah, and then we were actually really trying for a second one, but we were not protecting ourselves either. So we just let things go. And after a while, I decided that I wanted to just go back to the clinic and start all over again. So I called the clinic. I got my papers sent and all of that, and they took us in 2020, and we had to redo all of our tests, obviously. So we did all of that, and then we did 4 more inseminations that failed. I still haven't been pregnant since my son. And after those 4 inseminations, they told us that my husband's results were just really, really bad. And also the fact that I was not responding to the medication as well as I used to. The more I was using it, the less it was effective. With my son, I had 3 mature follicles, but in 2020, I had like 2, 1. Sometimes even just having 1 was enough. And we didn't realize the first time around that we were so lucky. Like, I remember that I told everyone that we were so lucky with our son, that like having it work on the first try is very lucky. It doesn't happen really often. So like, I knew we were lucky, but I didn't understand how much of a miracle my son is. And because the second time around, they told us that my husband's results were really, really bad, and they accepted to do the inseminations because we actually had a pregnancy before and it worked before with like really bad results. So they decided to like try it on for a second one, but this time around it didn't work. And in October 2020, that's when I learned after 4 inseminations that we could not continue on. And the next step would be IVF. Hi everyone, so I just finished filming this video and then I just realized that I didn't explain to you what the IVF actually is. So I did explain how the insemination works, but IVF is quite different. So how it works is that they overstimulate your ovaries and try to make you ovulate as many eggs as possible. So it's a lot of medication, mostly injections, and a lot of follow-ups. And then they're going to extract them. And if they see that they have enough, they're going to extract those eggs. And then out of all of those eggs, some of them won't be mature enough, so they won't be able to keep them. So for example, if you have like 25, I'll take a random round number, but if you have, for example, like 25 eggs that were extracted, out of those 25, maybe only 20 will be mature enough to be fertilized. Out of those 20 that are going to try to fertilize, there maybe only 15 will actually work. And out of those 15, they're going to freeze them. So there's like 2 things that you can do. So you have like frozen transfers. I don't know if in English that's exactly how they call it, but in French, that's pretty much the translation of how it's called. So they do it frozen transfer and or a fresh transfer. So if you want to have a transfer during the same cycle that you get your eggs extracted, they call that a fresh transfer. So they only transfer, usually here in Quebec, they usually transfer only 1, maybe 2 eggs tops. They don't want to do much more because having multiple babies at the same time, it's very risky and it can be really dangerous, and it does cost a lot to hospitals because of all that is needed for the care of those babies. So yeah, and then they're going to freeze all of the other embryos, and if they freeze, let's say 19 out of the 20 that worked, a lot of them won't survive the unfreezing process. So out of the 19, maybe only 12 will survive. And I mean, that would be a lot. Having 12 transfers, having 12 embryos to transfer, that would be a lot. And why it costs that much is the extraction is very expensive. If I recall correctly, here in Quebec, okay, so in Canadian dollars, it costs about 5,000 for an extraction, and that includes like all the sonograms and doctor fees and all of that, and then every transfer costs about $1,500, $1,500. So that can add up pretty quickly, especially if you don't have a lot of eggs, because those extractions are very pricey and the medication is also extremely pricey. So yeah, so that's basically how it works. So inseminations, they don't extract any egg. They just give the sperm a little push and put them in the right place where it should be, or close-ish to where it should be. And in vitro means that they actually do the fertilization outside of the body and watch them grow and try to put them in utero to hopefully make it a baby. And surprisingly, you would think that it would work a lot, and surprisingly, it doesn't always work. There's a lot of failure with that technique as well. So yeah, I've been told that since I already had a pregnancy once, that it would be easier the second time, like that I had a higher chance of success with IVF. So we'll see, I guess. But it's around 50% chance of success, which is a lot considering that inseminations is around 18%, and people and couples who don't have any fertility problems, they have around 12 to 15% chance of getting pregnant every month. So like inseminations don't give that higher chances, but IVF really does. So yeah. And I'm not even talking about how all of the medication and hormones can affect a person physically. And I've heard, I haven't had to take those medications yet, and I haven't been through that process yet, but from what I've heard of other people who has been through it, it can take a big toll on you physically and mentally, and it can be really tough for a lot of couples. So you kind of need to be strong to go through that, even if you have the money to do it. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in and make it more clear. And that hit me so hard, because what I haven't told you is that here in Quebec, we have a public health system. So we don't have to pay to go to the doctors. It's all paid with our taxes and everything, and it's free. IVF used to be free, and then they took it off the public health system. Maybe I think before I got pregnant with my son, not sure about that, but around that time, and they just reinstated the free IVF. So what they instated now, so what was covered up until now was 9 inseminations, and for every viable pregnancy. So every time you have a viable pregnancy, even if you don't have a baby at the end, if for whatever reason you have a miscarriage or your baby dies or whatever, if you see a heart on the sonogram, that means it's a viable pregnancy. Then if something bad happens, or if you want another one, whatever, your number of inseminations that you're allowed to have turns back to 0. So we had one viable pregnancy. We had our son. So now for a second one, it restarted the counter to 0. But they didn't want to do more than 4, which I was really mad with because I just didn't understand it. What they've told us is that if you're looking at these stats, the chances of actually conceiving a child after 4 inseminations, especially with our results, was close to 0%. So that's why they just told us to not continue on with that route. And that IVF was really the best option for us. And I took it really hard because even if they reinstated the free IVF, it usually costs around $15,000 for one IVF cycle. And I don't have that money. We are struggling financially. My husband has not been working since April last year, so it's been a year, and he's dealing with a lot of mental health things, and like it's his own stuff. He's doing a lot better than last year, but he's still not ready to work, so that's why I'm working 2 jobs. I'm teaching during the week, and I have another job on the weekends to make ends meet, because I think it's extremely important that he takes the time to heal from a lot of trauma that he's been through in his life, in his childhood, in his old workspace, work environment. So yeah, a lot of trauma there, and he really needs to deal with that stuff. But having our son really grounds him a lot, and it helps him so much. And honestly, he's sometimes a better parent than I am. And when he's with our son, he's really the best dad I could hope for. So, and we had the plan that I was going to continue to work while he was going to stay at home and be a stay-at-home dad when we have around 3 children, because with 3 children, that's when it costs a lot more to get them to daycare and school than actually staying home and not having that income. So that was the initial plan. Life decided otherwise, and now he's at home. He has been since the last year. Even if now there's a 1 free IVF cycle, it's complicated, and they are not allowing private clinics to, they're not reimbursing them, they're not refunding them the fees for the free cycles because they're private. So yeah, there's already a huge list of patients that have been waiting for this to be free. And it was already a good, like, a year-long wait list. And now with this thing for the private clinics, people are moving away to public clinics, and it's a whole mess. And now the waiting lists are way longer, and it's just a wild. I did talk to a doctor at one of the clinics, one of the public clinics in Montreal. I live near Quebec City, and I didn't want to go to the private clinic, not because of everything that's going on right now, because I didn't know that at the time. But because I had heard really bad things about that clinic, so I didn't trust them. I and the other clinics were all around the Montreal area, so I decided to go there. And I sent my file. I did talk to a doctor and talk about our situation, what's going on, and we decided that it was not the best time to be doing fertility treatments right now. So we're going to let the storm settle down a little bit before actually getting back into that. And being a teacher, I don't have a lot of days off, and having to travel through Montreal, which is 3 hours from here, and all that, and being on standby. See, that's the thing. When you go through fertility treatments, you always need to be on standby. You go to a sonogram, you make sure if everything's okay. If it's not okay, you go back home. If it's okay, you come back the next day, and you're always on standby. And with the teacher shortage, it's hard to do. It's not very convenient. You have to have your work environment very flexible. And not only does it cost like $15,000, but it also costs you some money to travel and some money because you're not working, to pay for all of those treatments. So it does add up to be quite expensive. And we decided to wait till the summer before we actually started getting back to those treatments. We are going to have to redo all of those tests all over again. So that's pretty much where we are right now. I'm not gonna lie, it is tough. I'm growing older. I'm turning 33 next month, and my son is turning 6 in 2 weeks. And I find it really hard, because usually when you turn 35, that's when they tell you that you have more risks of complications in pregnancies and Down syndromes and stuff like that. And they really scare you with those things. And it scares me as well. I see the time flying by, and I am struggling just as much as I was the first time around. I think I'm struggling even more than the first time we went through this process. So yeah, it's hard. So basically, that's the reason why I decided to start a booktube channel and try to make money out of it and put that money towards the IVF project. Because even if we do get to have a free cycle, doesn't mean it still costs me some fees, and it's still a lot of medications and very pricey medication. And I still need to take days off from work and all of that. And if our first cycle doesn't work, well, we're probably going to need to pay for a second one. So yeah, it's tough. It seems impossible for us because we're struggling financially. It seems very unfair. And I also really need to call them back, because we haven't received any papers and prescriptions for all of our tests to be done yet. And if we want to start treatments during the summer, we kind of need those done. So that's where we're at. I'm not losing hope, but I can't say that it doesn't affect me. I don't think about it every day. I'm at a point where I went through all of these phases throughout fertility, and I'm not as upset as I was when I hear other people get pregnant. I don't, and I deal with it pretty well most of the time. But it's still hard, and my son does ask us for a baby and sister or a brother, and I find it really hard to try to explain to him that we would love to, but we can't right now, and we need help, and we're not even sure that it's gonna work. So yeah, I hope me sharing about our journey has been helpful to you. to help you understand what it means to go through infertility. And if you are struggling with that, I hope that you feel less alone. And if you want to share your stories as well, please feel free to leave a comment. If you're comfortable with that, I would not want to impose that on anyone at all. And I do want the comment section to be a safe space for everyone that comments there. So this was a very serious and personal video, but I think it's important to talk about because these things are very taboo. So many people who are struggling with infertility, there's probably a lot of people around you that are struggling with it and you don't even know about it. So yeah, I think it's something that's very important to talk about and be aware of. So yeah, that's the reason why I made this video. I hope it helped at least one person out there to feel less alone and more sane. I will be doing another video this week about what not to say to someone who's struggling with infertility and what is the right thing you should be saying instead to help out these people who are struggling. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you in the next one.